le directeur du NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence, M. Mart, NOORMA. On l'accueille.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and the main reason is that Canada definitely is one of the digital leaders of the world. And as we will discuss later, we will see, or probably you all know this already, but cyber defense in Canada is also an example to follow by all the other nations. So that's why I'm so pleased to be here and share with you my views and the views of our center on cyber defense capability development. So if you take one sentence away from here about what NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence is all about, it's our purpose statement, which would say we are here to help our nations to be able to face cyber threats as a coalition. So the most important word in our name is cooperation. It's all about nations pulling together their resources, supporting each other in time of need, and being prepared for situations where one or many of our nations get under attack by our adversaries. So a quick background about what a NATO Center of Excellence is, because I trust most of you are from industry, from government, and not necessarily from NATO, so you might not exactly know what NATO organizations exactly are. So one interesting thing is that while even our name is NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence, we are actually not part of the NATO command chain. We are not part of NATO. We are independent international military organization under the Paris Protocol, established by nations interested in cyber defense. So in general, there are 30 different NATO centers of excellence, and also one of them is located here in Canada and deals with the impact of the climate change on our national defenses and collective defense. So out of all these 30 centers of excellence, NATO CCDCOE is the largest in terms of member states, member nations. And that actually just indicates how important our nations consider cyber defense for them. So talking about cyber defense, and so we need to start from definitions. So there is no unique definition what a cyber defense is, but broadly we use it this way, that cybersecurity is the cybersecurity across all sectors, but this component or part of cybersecurity that is under responsibility of Ministry of Defense Affairs, this we call cyber defense. And what we do at our Center of Excellence, we now support our nations to be able to face cyber threats as a coalition. In practice, we are not tactical cyber defense center. We don't do hacking, we don't do cyber defense cyber operations. We are Center of Excellence working to support our cyber warriors. So we do research, concept development, doctrines and standards, education and training, and exercises. So this list of products starts with research, and research here we don't compete really with universities. Universities are mainly focused on fundamentals, kind of starting from idea. We are more focused on practical application, so our products of our research should be applicable for our nations, for our cyber warriors, to improve their capability to conduct cyber operations, defend our nations. Based on that, based on this research, our doctrinal work, we are the custodians of NATO Joint Allied Doctrine for Cyberspace Operations. So that is where we bring together additional expertise from all our nations and help to make sure that our NATO approach, our NATO doctrine is looking forward, is ready for the future, and we can work on that. So education and training. We are we have this title of being department head at NATO Allied Command Transformation for Cyber Discipline, which means that our center oversees all cyber education and training for NATO structure. That means we collect input from different NATO authorities and develop our course portfolio to meet the needs and requirements of our nations. And we have a lot of trainings for different cyber operators, and I know Canadians actively take part at these courses, and also some courses are lectured. Even next year, one course will be conducted here in Quebec. So so Canada is a member of CCDCOE, and I'm happy to tell you that the Canadian representative to CCDCOE actually works in development of the best possible courses and training for our NATO allies. And last but not least, exercises. Exercises are there to train or validate our concepts of cyber operations. And I will tell you more about our exercises, which are the biggest products or service we provide to our nations. And in case of cyber, you all know that it's not enough to have just technical competencies. In order to deal with a cyber incident, we need to have a wide variety of expertise, and our competencies as experts at CCDCOE cover technology, operations, strategy, and law, and all of that is implemented then in education training concepts and exercises. So with all these competencies and products and services, how are we really helping our nations? We have identified, based on continuous discussion with our nations, 5 main capabilities, operational capabilities that our nations need to have in order to be prepared, to have cyber defense at the level to mitigate the risks. So first of these focus areas is the operational capability to conduct cyberspace operations and activities for defensive purposes based on common framework. Well, that's a national capability. By common framework, we mean concept doctrines and handbook standards, course control documents, anything, all these materials supporting our nations, which they can use or they can refer to as a benchmark or a reference framework. So capability 2 is capability to incorporate cyber domain considerations into joint and multi-domain operations. And for our defense forces, because cyber domain is the newest of the 5 warfighting domains defined by NATO, which are air, land, and sea, space, and cyber. So the question how cyber is part of that and supports other domains or is supported by other domains is a novel area where everybody is looking for best answers. The third one, capability to conduct multinational cyberspace operations, obviously as it aligns with our main purpose, is the key, and it applies, well, the common framework here is the most important element that helps our nations to be able to work together. So that means they understand each other. And like in all cooperations, there are 2 most important levels that everybody needs to achieve. And this is the same when we cooperate with our neighbor at home at personal level. First thing is to know your neighbor, to know your partner, who is responsible for what at that nation, because all nations are very different in their organizations and strategies and so on. And the second question is trust. How do we trust each other? And this trust comes only through continuous cooperation, which definitely Colonel Blanc will talk a lot about later at the panel, because Canada has enormous expertise in this field, because Canada is so special in the world. Everybody loves Canada. Everybody's friends with Canada. So it's easy to build trust with Canadian troops, which is not necessarily the case for most of the other nations. So capability to conduct military, civilian cyber activities means that mainly it means that during the peacetime it's quite obvious what is the responsibility of civilian authorities of cybersecurity, like CERTs and so on. But and what is the responsibility of defense? But now in this escalation timeline, if we happen to go from peace to crisis, from crisis to conflict and war, then all chain of command and responsibilities probably will change because, for example, protection of critical infrastructure is not anymore just civilian matter because now we might have kinetic effects against civilian infrastructure and so on, where national civilian cyber authorities are not necessarily well positioned to mitigate these risks. And then the last but not least, public-private partnership in cyber operations, it's very critical, and if we look lessons learned from Ukrainian defense of their freedom against Russian aggression, then we see that maybe there are many first time in history happening during this conflict, but one of them is that first time we see the enormous effect of industry on national defense of a nation, namely how all our industry is supporting Ukrainian warfighters, but what we also have seen is that it's not only there is a big risk that now the military decisions might be defined by some businessman somewhere else, for example, saying that until that line you get your connectivity and beyond that line you don't get your connectivity because that's his decision. And now the rhetoric question is, what is there for the general commanding the armed forces to decide anymore if this decision has been made by some industrial partner somewhere overseas? So just to put this into a figure, so in cyberspace, as you know, there are these three layers, and on top of these layers, what we are concerned now is a command of cyber operations and actually the real effect of the cyber operation, taking into account, especially in case of active defense or offensive cyber operations, that collateral damage, which is difficult to understand in cyberspace, that it would not be beyond ethical limits. That's very important for our democratic nations. Let's say our adversaries don't really care maybe about how many hospitals they take down along the lines of attack of a military base, cyber attack. So, but for us, these ethical legal questions here are extremely important. On top of that, then a multi-domain layer, how we cooperate with our other domains, special operating forces, helping us to get access to adversary networks by physical means, and so on, and red side, for example, sending an Iskander missile against our servers or our network hubs, and so on. A lot of development needed here. On top of that, we need to do all of that in multinational environment with our allies and partners, because probably anybody in cyber defense would say that today just a single nation in a vacuum can't do really anything against our adversaries because they are so global all over the place. And information sharing and intelligence sharing is just a start here. On top of that, all this hybrid environment around cyber operations, political, diplomatic, international law, strategic communication, and all of that we practice at our exercises. And here is one video about our prime exercise, Lock Shields.
Welcome to NATO's Cooperative Cyber Defense Centre of Excellence's Lock Shields 2023. This is the 13th edition of Lock Shields, organised by NATO's CCD COE.
It's that time of the year again, the Lock Shields time.
A series of collaborative cyber defense simulation exercises aimed at testing the skills of some of the world's most talented IT specialists.
The purpose of the Red Team is to play the bad guys. So we are here in order to enable the scenario. We are here to provide the exercise with the attacks. We will be attacking all of the blue teams in accordance with the preset scenario. And we will be enabling all of the other teams as well to do their jobs. So our attacks will enable the legal game, the media game, the strategic game, and all the others.
The internet is the battleground. Cyber defenders are at large, and teams compete to simultaneously attack and defend the fictitious country of Beryllia.
This exercise gives to the people in this blue team an excellent opportunity to practice the defense of the cyber attacks in such a realistic manner, but we will never ever get anywhere else.
Legal advisor plays one of the most important roles for every military commander because he advises him about the legality of the action the commander considers to apply in the field. Most importantly, whether or not if it is in accordance with international law.
And in order for the technical teams to have a realistic, immersive and comprehensive exercise, they need to understand all the wider components of the information environment which exists in the modern environment, to be able to understand what's available, process the different types of information, and correlate and understand which is important in order to assist them in their technical component for the cyber aspect of the exercise.
As you see, this picture's nation under attack is a neighbor of Canada, somewhere in northern Atlantic. But some numbers about lock shields. So we believe it's the largest and most complex cyber defense international exercise in the world. This year we had 3,000 participants from 38 nations. We had 5,500 virtual machines, about 8,000 red team attacks over the course of 2 days. National teams ranging from 50 people up to 300 people. And we believe everybody got a lot of value out of that, included Canadian participants at the event. So now, getting closer to the end of my presentation, I asked our Ukrainian colleagues so Ukraine is a member of our center starting this year, and they have their experts on site in Tallinn at our HQ. And what we do with Ukraine is that from on NATO side, we try to give them the best possible support in the area of our expertise, and at the same time we make sure that the best possible lessons learned from Ukrainian experience is transferred into all products and services we provide to our nations, including Canada. And here is a short list that answers the question. So everybody talks about critical infrastructure protection, and we all have this theoretical understanding what type of attacks and risks we see in critical infrastructure protection. Here is a list where our Ukrainian colleagues just a couple of weeks ago listed for me the most important vulnerabilities and attack vectors against critical infrastructure. And this is what really happens on the battlefield of Ukraine. And you see a lot of things like, let's say, insider threats, or where we can talk that we have people in our structure who are in civilian time. They are good contributors, and we have NDAs in place and so on. But still, during the war, we see that some people have alliances somewhere else, and that causes a lot of insider attacks against the networks, physical destruction, and capturing assets and personnel, which is really a wartime situation. But now, to conclude my presentation, I would like to talk a little bit about the future of warfighting. There is an excellent report developed by NATO Science and Technology Organization called Science and Technology Trends 2023-2043. This is really available from internet, and for NATO it's kind of Bible, because we all know that what the future trends are in this community. But now this is the approach that NATO has taken to systemize, have taxonomy on it, and emphasize which are of the new trends and technologies have most effect on our defense. And I will not go through it point by point, but the main observation is, if you look at that, cyber, while not mentioned specifically as one of the emerging disruptive technology areas, it's all over the place. Everything here, like intelligence, connectivity, decentralization, everything has to do with cyber. Cyber is an enabler for everything on that slide, eventually coming down to the cognitive effects of the warfare. And to end my presentation, I give you a glimpse of the future. So now, today we talk about cybersecurity, or cyber defense of human troops. But in a couple of decades, probably the number of robotic assets and semi-autonomous or autonomous weapon systems in the hands of our troops will be larger than the number of our human troops. And here is just one example of the assets which cybersecurity and cyber defense will be a key for our future operations. I used to be development director of company Milrem Robotics, whose products these systems are, and I'm happy to say that they are now on the battlefield of Ukraine supporting our Ukrainian friends. And with that, I conclude, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.